Welcome to Life Stories, where sometimes the most painful goodbye isn't when someone walks away. It's when they pretend you never mattered. She planned the perfect anniversary. He sent a 5-line email. By the time she discovered the truth, it wasn't just a betrayal. It was a vanishing act. This is the story of a woman who gave everything to a man, building a secret life behind her back, and the quiet, devastating moment she stopped waiting to be chosen. But what happens when the lies unravel and the person who broke you realizes you survived without them? And what if the past doesn't stay buried, especially when a child enters the picture? Stay with us as we follow one woman's journey through heartbreak, reinvention, and a truth so raw it might just change how you see love, beauty, and closure forever. Now let's step into the night. Everything began to fall apart. The first thing Rachel noticed that morning wasn't the silence. It was the absence of his cologne. For 8 years, Jason's scent had clung to everything: the hallway air, their pillowcases, the coffee mugs he never rinsed. But today, the apartment smelled sterile, air-conditioned, erased. June 12th was supposed to mean something. Their wedding anniversary. Jason's 36th birthday. Rachel had taken a half day from her job at the clinic's finance department, driven across Portland to buy his favorite Napa Valley Red, stopped at a specialty butcher in the Pearl District for dry-aged short ribs, and even ordered a vanilla bean cake with the inscription, "To Jason, happy birthday and anniversary." By 7 p.m., she'd set the table on their apartment balcony, draped it in a linen cloth, lit the string lights she'd found at a clearance sale, and even dabbed on the perfume Jason used to like, before he stopped noticing. By 9 p.m., she had texted, "I'm waiting." No reply. By 9:30, she called. Voicemail. At 10:35 p.m., a ping, a 5-line email. Subject, work emergency. Message, sorry, big client pitch, had to stay. We'll make it up later. No, happy anniversary. No, love you. The candles had already melted. The wine bottle stood unopened. The cake sat untouched in the fridge. Rachel didn't cry. Instead, she sat very still in the golden light of their quiet dining room, holding the folded napkin she'd placed beside his empty plate. Something inside her shifted, like an old door finally giving way to the wind. The next morning, she dressed in silence and left for work as usual. No message from Jason. Not even a good morning. By noon, her unease curdled into something darker. She called his office. A hesitant receptionist answered. "Oh, Jason resigned 3 days ago. Didn't leave a forwarding number." Rachel's hand trembled around her phone. Her chest tightened. The world slowed, then blurred. She rushed home. The drive felt longer than usual, every red light a gut punch. When she opened the door to their apartment, it hit her instantly. The second row of the shoe rack was empty. Jason's leather Oxfords were gone. She called out his name. Silence. Her breath caught as she stepped into their bedroom. He was there, standing beside an open suitcase, throwing shirts into a duffel bag like a man late for a flight. There was no shock on his face, no guilt, no regret, just indifference. "You're back," he said, not looking up. Rachel's voice cracked. "What are you doing?" "I'm leaving," he replied flatly. "I've accepted a new job in Santa Rosa. Starts next week." "You quit your job and didn't tell me?" He pulled a folder from the bed and handed it to her. The first page. Divorce papers. Neat. Cold. "I don't understand," she whispered. Jason finally looked at her. His eyes were steel. "You're not the wife I need. The house is always dusty. You barely cook. You're emotionally distant. I don't feel seen anymore." Rachel's voice rose, trembling. "I try. You're the one who comes home late, says you've eaten. I plan meals. I clean. I work and pay half the rent. And you're telling me I'm not enough?" "You make excuses," he snapped. "A real wife doesn't need reminders." She laughed, bitter. "And a real husband doesn't vanish into thin air." He zipped the suitcase. "I rented a condo near the new office. I'm not coming back." He brushed past her toward the door. "No apology? No conversation?" He didn't look back. "I don't owe you anything." The door clicked behind him like a coffin lid sealing. 2 days later, building management called. Jason had terminated the lease. He'd left a note. The person staying behind will vacate by the end of the month. Rachel walked through the apartment that night with numb fingers, brushing her hand over furniture they picked out together, her name on every receipt. He'd taken nothing but clothes and a few gadgets. It was like he'd been preparing this exit for months. But that wasn't the end. A week later, Rachel received an email at 9:40 p.m. The subject line read proof. Attached was a high-resolution image, a marriage certificate. Groom, Jason Reed Morgan. Bride, Vanessa Harper, filed in Santa Rosa County, California. The date? One day after their divorce finalized. Rachel froze. Her hands shook, but not with grief, with clarity. Vanessa Harper. That name. Familiar. She opened Facebook and searched. It didn't take long. The profile revealed a woman with cascading blonde hair, icy blue eyes, and the kind of symmetrical face only money could sculpt. But Rachel remembered the girl behind the name, Vanessa Ellis. High school, stringy hair, acne, a voice so soft she was constantly talked over. The girl who sat alone at lunch, who used to stare down at her feet when boys walked by. Now she was Mrs. Vanessa Harper Morgan, heiress to a real estate empire, owner of a boutique art gallery, and apparently Jason's new wife. Rachel called her high school best friend Katie. "Do you remember Vanessa Ellis?" Katie laughed. "Remember her? She basically disappeared senior year. Rumor was she went full plastic after moving to New York. New name, new life." Rachel said nothing. "She always knew how to upgrade," Katie added, strategic, like a social chameleon. That night, Rachel sat in her living room staring at the wedding photo. Everything gleamed. White gown, pastel roses, polished smiles. But behind that shine were layers of lies. A man who erased his past. A woman who rebuilt her face. And somewhere in between, a truth they hadn't accounted for. The twist came 3 weeks later. Jason called. "Vanessa gave birth," he said, his voice oddly hollow. "It's a girl." Rachel stayed silent. She doesn't look like either of us," he said, his voice cracking. "I mean, she's mine. I did the test, but her face, it's not what we expected." Rachel's lips curled into a faint smile. "Genetics don't care about filters, Jason." Silence. Then, desperation. "You knew. That night I called. You were laughing. You saw something, didn't you?" She leaned back in her chair, voice like velvet over steel. "I saw your senior yearbook photo, Jason, the one buried under your old tax returns." He inhaled sharply. "You didn't just erase your past, you tried to rewrite your genes. But children? They remember who we really are." Vanessa refused to hold the baby. Jason sounded lost, afraid. "You once said I failed as a wife because I didn't sacrifice," Rachel said softly. "But look at you now. Can't even look your own daughter in the eye." Then she hung up, calm, certain. "Do you think some people rebuild themselves so much they forget who they truly are? Have you ever watched someone try to erase the past, only to be undone by what they couldn't control?" Next, as Rachel rebuilds her life, an unexpected encounter brings a quiet man from her past back into her world, and with him, a choice she never saw coming. Rachel hadn't planned to go to the reunion, not after everything. But something about standing in the center of her empty apartment, walls echoing with the absence of shared memories, made her grab the black dress, pull her hair into a low twist, and drive. Not to be seen, not to impress. Just to remember she still existed. Green Lantern Brewery buzzed with laughter and nostalgia, old playlists spinning in the background, half-forgotten faces resurfacing in clusters. She moved through the noise like a ghost until a voice pulled her back. "Rachel Moore?" She turned. Luke Harmon, the bassist from their high school band, still had that quiet confidence, now softened by fatherhood and loss. "Didn't think you'd show," he said, handing her a cider. Still the last one to arrive. They settled into a booth near the back, surrounded by string lights and years of shared history. Luke told her about his divorce. No drama, just two people who couldn't stretch far enough to meet in the middle. He was raising his 6-year-old daughter now. Rachel nodded as he spoke, her heart a quiet tide, listening not just to his story, but to the steady hum of life moving forward. When he asked about Jason, she answered simply, "We're divorced." He didn't ask for details. She was grateful. The reunion ended with hugs and promises no one would keep. But 2 days later, Luke texted, "Coffee? No pressure." She said yes. Their coffees turned into late morning walks, plant shopping for her sunny new balcony, and quiet dinners where silence wasn't uncomfortable, just shared. Rachel never spoke much about Jason. Luke never pushed, and for a while things felt still, whole, until one Sunday afternoon in early spring, a letter arrived. No return address, no handwriting on the envelope, just her name typed neatly. She opened it slowly, instinctively. Inside, a court summons. Vanessa Harper Morgan v. Rachel Moore. Civil action. Allegation: emotional distress. Her breath left her body. The attached affidavit was even more absurd. Vanessa claimed that Rachel had intentionally interfered in her marriage, maliciously sowing doubt in the paternity of her child, leading to psychological trauma, reputation damage, and marital instability. Rachel scanned the page again, stunned. It wasn't just delusional. It was strategic, weaponized. And just like that, the quiet she had spent months cultivating cracked. She sat at her kitchen table, the Portland sun casting long shadows through her window, and felt it. That creeping burn behind the ribs. Anger. Not loud or vengeful, just deep, unshakable. Rachel didn't want to go to war, but she also wouldn't be silenced. She called Katie, who laughed darkly. Vanessa's spiraling. Someone probably told her about Jason calling you after the baby was born. But I never spoke to her, Rachel said. I never contacted either of them after that call. Doesn't matter, Katie replied. This isn't about truth. It's about control. And she's scared. Rachel hired a lawyer, a sharp, measured woman named Celine Nguyen, who read through the affidavit and immediately spotted the cracks. She has no grounds, but they're not looking to win. They want to shake you, get you to retreat. That night, Rachel lay awake in her new apartment, the ceiling fan slicing slow rotations through the air. For months, she'd buried Jason and Vanessa behind silence and healing. But now, their shadows were crawling back, dragging her into a spotlight she never asked for. She thought about the baby girl, still just a toddler, a child born into a world of mirrors and masked intentions. And now, Rachel had become the next target in a long game she hadn't even known she was part of. Luke noticed her quietness the next morning over breakfast. You okay? She hesitated, then handed him the summons. He read in silence, jaw tight. They're afraid of you. Rachel laughed, dry. Why? I signed the divorce. I let them go. Exactly, he said. You didn't break. You didn't crawl back. You became proof that they didn't win. His words sat with her for days. The deposition date arrived. Rachel walked into the courthouse wearing navy slacks and a linen blouse. Nothing dramatic, just herself. Vanessa sat on the other side, polished to flawlessness. Not a wrinkle out of place, but her eyes gave her away, narrowed, dark-rimmed, as if sleep hadn't visited her in weeks. Jason was there too, suit crisp, expression unreadable. Rachel said nothing during the proceedings. Her attorney dismantled each claim with quiet precision. Emails, call logs, zero communication. No incitement, no malice, just silence. At one point, Jason's eyes met hers. For a fraction of a second, something flickered. Not remorse, not shame, just discomfort, like staring at a reflection you can't adjust. When it was over, Vanessa stormed out first, heels clicking like gunshots. Jason lingered. Rachel didn't move. She watched him. He looked thinner, hollow. He opened his mouth, maybe to speak. She raised her hand, barely, and turned away. As she walked down the courthouse steps into the spring sunlight, Rachel felt no triumph, just a stillness that tasted like resolve. The world would always have people who weaponize silence, who fear the ones they couldn't break. But this time, Rachel wasn't the one left behind. She wasn't collateral. She was a boundary. Have you ever been blamed simply for surviving something someone else couldn't control? What happens when those who hurt you realize you healed without needing them? Next, as Rachel's name is cleared and her quiet life resumes, a letter from someone unexpected threatens to open a chapter she thought was long sealed shut. Stay with us for what comes next. 3 months after the courthouse quieted, Rachel received a letter with no return address, sealed with a plain gold sticker. The handwriting stopped her cold, curved, steady, unmistakable. It was from Mrs. Harper, not Vanessa, the mother. She read it standing in the hallway, the sun just beginning to slip behind the Portland rooftops. Rachel, I don't expect a reply, but I need to tell someone the truth, and you seem to be the only one left who deserves it. Vanessa left Jason 2 weeks ago. The girl, Ava, stays with me now. Vanessa says she needs space. I think she's trying to disappear again, the way she did after college. But the part you should know, Ava talks about you. She doesn't know your name, But she's seen photos of Jason holding a woman who smiles differently, a softness he never has with Vanessa. I think Ava sees something she can't explain. I don't know what you did or didn't do, but somehow you became the person she associates with peace, with care. I'm sorry you were dragged into this. I know, you were the only honest person in the mess they made. Thank you for being kind, even when they weren't. I'll take care of Ava. But I thought you should hear that she's okay, and that someone remembers you the right way. Rachel sat on the floor for a long time after that, not crying, just breathing. The letter wasn't an apology, it wasn't redemption. But it was a window cracked open, finally, a breeze of clarity flowing in. By late spring, Luke had become a quiet fixture in her life. He never asked for more than she could give. They read together on her balcony, cooked lazy pasta dinners, and sometimes spent entire evenings listening to vinyl records from the thrift store. His daughter, Chloe, had taken a liking to Rachel instantly, her gentle presence a contrast to the storm Rachel had just survived. One evening, as golden hours stretched long across the hardwood floors, Luke turned to her and said, "You know, you never told me how it really ended with Jason. Not just the facts, the feeling." Rachel considered this. The instinct to deflect had faded. Now there was only the truth, waiting patiently. "It didn't end the day he left," she said. "It ended the day I stopped asking why. I used to think I needed an explanation, closure, but I realized I was the only one who stayed honest." "That was enough." Luke nodded. "That's a powerful kind of peace." It was. But peace, Rachel had learned, was something you had to choose again and again. One Sunday in late June, she received an email from Jason. The subject line, just a photo. No message, just a single attachment. She hesitated, hand hovering over her trackpad before clicking. The image loaded slowly. It was Ava, now almost 4, sitting on a park bench, clutching a stuffed bear, face turned slightly to the side. In her features, there was no polished perfection, no trace of the surgeries her parents had once relied on to build their identities. But her expression, soft, curious, half-smile forming, was familiar. Too familiar. Rachel studied it, heart pulsing not with sorrow but with memory. She remembered the little girl she had once imagined having, back when she still believed in anniversaries and birthday dinners, back before silence became her only dinner companion. For a moment, she felt something close to ache. Not regret, just a ghost of the life she thought she wanted. The next morning, she deleted the photo. She didn't reply. Later that summer, Rachel hosted a small gathering on her balcony. Luke, Chloe, Katie, and 2 coworkers from the clinic. They grilled vegetables, played board games, spilled wine, and stayed until the stars came out. There was no drama, no grand revelations, just laughter rising over city rooftops like incense. At one point, as she was refilling glasses, Chloe tugged at her sleeve and whispered, "You smile like my mom used to." Rachel knelt down, looking her in the eyes. "That's a big compliment." "She only smiled like that when she was happy," Chloe said simply, then ran off to chase the bubbles someone had started blowing. Rachel stood there, still for a moment, letting the words settle. Maybe happiness wasn't loud. Maybe it didn't arrive with fireworks or new romances or a picture-perfect ending. Maybe it was just this: quiet people, warm hands, truth without performance. The next week, she received a friend request on Facebook, from a profile with no photo. The name, Vanessa Harper. Rachel stared at it for 1 second, 2, then declined. No malice, no fear, just a simple refusal to let the past sit at her table again. By autumn, the trees outside her apartment shed their leaves like old secrets. She hung new curtains, started a Sunday journal ritual, bought a second-hand easel, and painted without shame. The city changed around her. More noise, more people, less stillness. But inside, she was whole. Not repaired, not reinvented, just real. Jason's name never came up again. Vanessa disappeared from headlines, galleries, and social media. The world moved on, and Rachel did too. Not because she had to, but because she chose to. Because healing wasn't about proving who hurt more. It was about reclaiming the voice you once silenced for the sake of being loved. And Rachel Moore would never be quiet again. What part of Rachel's journey resonated with you the most? Comment 100 if this story touched your heart. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. Share this story with someone who needs it, and thank you for watching Life Stories.